Let's bring in Ezra's colleague, Washington Post columnist E.J. Dionne, also a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, and who was included in Bill O'Reilly's opening segment this evening. A big picture of you. So congratulations. You did something really nasty, apparently.
I feel good about that. I didn't know. Thank you.
Well, watch it later on, or have somebody you don't like watch it and then tell you about it. It's similar to what I asked Ezra about this, E.J. In its full political context, what are we seeing here?
What we're seeing here is the spending of secret political money on a scale that we haven't seen since Watergate. What we're seeing are attack ads for which no one is being held accountable, and that's a particular problem when many of these ads are saying things that aren't true. What we're seeing are wealthy individuals give huge sums and have power in this game that they haven't had since the Gilded Age. Eliza Newland Carney is a columnist for the National Journal. She's very level-headed. She doesn't sound a fire bell unless there's a fire. And she wrote this week that big money and unprecedented secrecy are tailor-made for scandal. And I think that's what we're going to see when this is all over.
Well, if we don't get scandal, whether or not we do later, we have distortions right now. And as you point out, there's nobody held accountable, let alone for the ads, never mind the contents of it. And here's an example. We mentioned this American Action Network. There's an ad attacking the Democratic incumbent in Connecticut, Congressman Chris Murphy, and it says that the health care bill means, quote, jail time for anyone without coverage, which is, we know what word it is. It begins with bull and it ends with it. This is the very thing that Democrats are fighting across the country. This is one ad out of, nearly 600.
Right, and the problem is if your opponent goes up with an ad that makes a false accusation, first of all, he's got to pay it for it, or she's got to pay for it with money under the cap. It's not secret money. And secondly, you can go right back at the opponent and say your opponent lied. But here you've got your opponents out in the ether. They're not, there's no one in particular. They're these sort of shadowy interests. So what do you do with that? And so they have a kind of impunity to say whatever they want in a way that no candidate on either side has. That's a real problem.
The fortunate thing about this is that the polling has suggested that the public actually cares and seriously cares about this when attention is focused on it. It is not, as the Republicans have been saying, a process story or a sour grape story on the part of the Democrats. But is the collective national revelation underway too late to prevent this from working exactly as the GOP wants it to work a week from tomorrow?
Well, first of all, I think Democrats got pushed off this a little bit. The Republicans hit them, and sometimes Democrats, when they get hit, sort of pull back a little bit. So I think that's a problem. There have been some press stories that treat it more like a political story than I think like the nonpartisan political problem that it is. Both parties should care about this. But I think these ads begin to have a negative effect. I mean, there are more of these negative ads in some markets than there are beer and Viagra ads during football games. And I think when people sort of see these strange groups, they begin to ask themselves questions. So I think there is a dawning that there is something really, really wrong here.
Well, to that point, you wrote today that the media has treated this as if it were a normal political story. Do you have an idea of why that is? Because that's apparent to me, too, that they just look at this like it's any other election and that it's not a Democrat versus Republican side. It is a responsive politics versus anonymous politics side, isn't it?
Well, yeah, my view is that what do journalists care about? They care about revealing secrets. They try to tell the public, these folks are trying to hide something from you. And I think this is tailor-made for the new Woodward or the new Bernstein. Fortunately, there are some journalists who've been really serious about this. Eliza's one of them. Jill Abramson in the New York Times and Mike Isikoff both made the Watergate analogy and said this is something all of us have to worry about. And I'm struck. Charlie Cobb, former Reagan administration official, president of the Committee for Economic Development, which is a business group, he said that, candidates are not commodities. They're not supposed to be bought and sold. And so there are Republicans out there who are starting to look at this and saying, this is really wrong. And I hope that begins to have an effect.
E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post, as always, good to talk to you. Thank you, E.J.
Thank you.